This incident took place last year, just a couple of days before Christmas. My wife, Julia, and I had no choice but to make a rushed visit to the local mall for some holiday decorations and ingredients for our big family dinner. And we brought along our young son, Danny. The place was filling up with shoppers by the minute, turning into a chaotic sea of people. I gripped Danny's hand tightly and warned him to stick close to me at all times. Yet, in the blink of an eye, when I glanced down again, he had vanished into the crowd. Panic surged through us as we dashed from shop to shop, yelling his name at the top of our lungs. A cold knot of fear twisted in my stomach. Julia burst into tears, her face drained of color. We were in the middle of explaining the situation to the mall's security team, begging for their assistance in locating Danny, when a chilling announcement echoed over the loudspeakers from their control room. Attention all shoppers. We regret to inform you that one of our security officers has been discovered deceased in the men's restroom. Please stay composed and remain within the premises. Out of nowhere, one of the guards pulled up surveillance video on a monitor, revealing footage of what appeared to be another security officer guiding Danny by the hand down a restricted corridor toward the rear of the building. That's him, that's our boy, I exclaimed. Get in touch with that guard right away. But as I studied the security guy's reaction, his complexion went ashen. He stammered that the individual in the video wasn't part of their staff at all. In fact, the uniform matched exactly the one worn by the officer who'd just been found dead in the bathroom. Julia collapsed to the ground in sobs, overwhelmed by the horror. Images of Danny's vulnerable, trusting expression haunted me. The police are en route, sir. They'll arrive any second, the guard assured me. But I couldn't stand idle. I bolted toward the back areas. Sir, hold on. He could be armed and dangerous. They shouted after me. None of that mattered. My only thought was rescuing Danny. I shoved open the employee's only door and entered a dim, stark concrete passageway. Overhead, lights dangled sporadically, many flickering or burned out, casting erratic shadows that danced with my every step. I sprinted by cluttered storerooms stacked with crates, and that's when I caught the sound of Danny's terrified cries. Daddy, Daddy. I zeroed in on his voice and slammed through another door into a vast warehouse space. There he was. The imposter had hoisted Danny up off the floor, one arm clamped vice-like around his torso, the other brandishing a sharp knife aimed at his throat. Danny's tiny legs flailed feebly in the air, his cheeks flushed crimson from endless tears. Back off right now, the man snarled menacingly. Release him, I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. He's just a little boy, only 6 years old. Whatever this is, please don't involve him. The man sneered. I couldn't care less. This kid is my ticket out of here, keeps the authorities off my back without any hassle. Danny was sobbing uncontrollably, his body quaking in fear, his small arms reaching desperately toward me. I realized one misstep could end everything, so I had to play this cleverly. I lifted my hands in surrender and said steadily, "Okay, listen, you're trying to escape this place, aren't you? I'll assist you. Just put him down and take me as your hostage instead. I swear I'll go along with whatever you say." He hesitated, using the knife to scratch at his temple thoughtfully, eyeing Danny, then shifting his gaze back to me. "Is this some kind of ploy? Because if it is, I'll end this right here with a bullet." "No tricks," I insisted. "Switch us out. Let the boy go. The police are closing in. You need to act fast." Somehow, my plea worked. He lowered Danny to the ground. My son toddled over to me on unsteady legs, and I enveloped him in a tight embrace. He was still weeping, convinced the danger lingered. I soothed him gently, whispering that he should hurry back to his mother and that I'd be okay soon. But at that very moment, the thunder of approaching footsteps filled the air. The man lunged at me, wrapping his arm around my throat and pressing the blade against my temple. Officers exploded into the room. Danny lingered nearby, wailing for me. One cop scooped him up protectively, while the others demanded the man surrender me. But he barked threats, vowing that any interference would cost me my life. I urged the police to prioritize getting Danny to safety, insisting I could handle myself. As we emerged back into the main mall area, a hushed crowd gawked at us with wide-eyed tension and dread. The officers attempted negotiations, but this guy, turns out, he was an escaped prisoner, brushed off every tactic they threw at him. Julia let out a piercing scream from amid the onlookers upon spotting me. It eased my mind a bit to see Danny safely reunited with her. Yet I knew the swap had shattered her world. She'd regained our son only to risk losing her husband. It felt like one nightmare morphing into another. The fugitive ordered me toward the exit, warning against any stupid moves. One slip up, and I'll put a hole in his skull. I complied, inching forward deliberately. The cops trained their weapons on him, but with my life on the line, they held fire. We neared the elevator when my eyes caught a large metallic Christmas star suspended from the ceiling inside it. A plan sparked in my brain. He smacked the back of my head with the knife's handle and growled, "Move it. You're my insurance policy. Got it." I stepped in, but as the doors began to slide shut, I saw him smirking triumphantly at the police, basking in his perceived victory. That momentary arrogance was his undoing. Seizing the opportunity, I yanked the star down and drove its sharp tip straight into his right eye. He howled in agony, the knife clattering to the floor. The officers rushed in, tackling him to the ground in an instant. The whole ordeal unfolded so swiftly that a stunned silence blanketed the scene for what felt like ages. At last, I was back with with my loved ones. Danny raced into my arms, clutching me fiercely while mumbling apologies through his sniffles. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I never should have wandered off." "Hush now," I replied softly. "You're okay, that's what counts most." "Did it scare you?" he asked, his voice small. "Absolutely terrified," I admitted. "But for you, I'd sacrifice everything without a second thought. Will you keep me safe forever? Forever and always. That's my promise." On that fateful day, I could have spun tales for Danny about being fearless or some invincible hero, but in my view, honesty is key with children. Let them see that moms and dads are just people, capable of errors like anyone else. It builds a foundation of true respect for the choices we make as parents. Last Christmas Eve was the worst decision I ever made. I was a sophomore in college up in Vermont, and at the very last minute, I decided to drive home to Ohio to surprise my family. A massive blizzard was already hammering the Northeast, but I figured if I left right after my last exam, I could beat the worst of it. I was dead wrong. About 30 minutes onto Highway 9, the snow turned into a complete whiteout. Visibility dropped to zero. My wipers couldn't keep up. And then my old Civic just died. No heat, no lights, no cell service, nothing. The temperature outside was plunging fast, and within minutes, the windows were frosting over from the inside. I sat there bundled in every layer I had, watching snow pile up on the hood, praying for even one bar on my phone. That's when I saw headlights behind me, cutting through the storm like knives. An ancient Ford pickup rolled up, absolutely covered in blinking, multicolored Christmas lights. There was a glowing plastic Santa on the dash, a wreath zip-tied to the grille, and strings of icicle lights dangling from the mirrors. It looked like a parade float that had lost its mind. The driver leaned across the seat and rolled down the passenger window. He was wearing a full Grinch costume, green fur, red jacket, the whole thing, and a Santa hat pulled low over the mask. His voice came out muffled but cheerful. "Need a lift, kid? Can't leave somebody freezing on Christmas." I was so cold and desperate, I didn't think twice. I grabbed my backpack, locked the car, and climbed in. The cab smelled like cheap pine air freshener, mixed with something sharp and metallic I couldn't place. Candy canes were duct taped all over the dash. The radio was playing a warped cassette of "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" on repeat. We pulled back onto the highway. For the first couple minutes, he didn't say much, just hummed along with the song. Then, out of nowhere, "You know what I can't stand about Christmas?" I laughed nervously. No, what?" "All that phony happiness, families acting like they love each other, kids screaming for garbage toys that'll be landfill by New Year's." He turned his head toward me. Even through the mesh mouth of the mask, I could feel the smile. I tried to play it off. Guess that's why you went full Grinch, huh? He chuckled, low and slow. Exactly. The turnoff for the nearest town came and went. My stomach dropped. Hey man, you just missed the exit. Nah, he said, still staring straight ahead. We're going home. You're my Christmas guest this year. The Grinch doesn't like eating alone anymore. My mouth went dry. My parents are expecting me. Let them wait. He cut me off. Where were they when you were freezing on the side of the road, huh? He reached over and popped open the glove box. Inside sat a long hunting knife next to a striped candy cane. The blade was dark and sticky looking. He tapped it with a gloved finger. Got to carve the roast just right, he said almost to himself. Takes patience, knowing exactly where to cut. We were slowing down now, turning onto an unplowed service road that disappeared into thick pines. No houses, no lights, just endless trees and snow. I didn't wait for him to stop. I jerked the door handle, threw my shoulder into it, and tumbled out into the storm. I hit the pavement hard, shoulder, ribs. Everything exploded in pain. But I scrambled up and ran for the tree line. Behind me, the truck's brake lights flared red. Then the engine roared. He was backing up. I crashed into the woods. Branches whipped my face. Snow up to my knees. Lungs burning from the ice-cold air. I could hear him laughing over the engine as the truck left the road and started plowing straight through the trees after me. The Christmas lights blinked insanely between the trunks. Red, green, blue, white, like some demonic parade. I cut left. The truck tried to follow, clipped a pine, kept coming. I could see the grill getting closer, hear the tires spinning for traction. 10 feet, 5 feet. My boot snagged a root buried under the snow, and I went down hard, face first into a drift. I rolled over just as the bumper rushed at me. 3 feet away, the truck suddenly locked up. Sirens screamed out of nowhere. Red and blue lights strobed through the trees. A state trooper's SUV burst into view behind the pickup. The Grinch slammed it into reverse, fishtailed, and floored it back toward the road. As he passed me, he stuck his head out the window, the Santa hat flapping in the wind. Merry Christmas, kid. Enjoy it while you still can. Then he was gone, swallowed by the blizzard. The troopers found me half buried and shaking. They located my abandoned car, saw the tire tracks leading into the woods, took my statement. They told me they'd been chasing reports all night of a beat-up pickup covered in Christmas lights, tailing people on the highway, running them off the road, then disappearing. They never found the truck, never found the Grinch. No plates, no footprints that led anywhere, nothing. Just tire tracks and my bruises. I made it home 2 days later after the roads cleared. My family thought I was exaggerating from trauma. I don't drive anywhere on Christmas Eve anymore. I flinch when I see trucks decorated with lights. And every time I spot someone in a Grinch suit, even if it's some poor college kid working a holiday event, I turn and walk the other way because I know he's still out there, cruising the highways every Christmas Eve, looking for one more lonely guest who won't make it home for dinner. I got my nursing license at 26 after growing up in and out of foster homes. When I landed a job at Meadowbrook Senior, living in upstate New York, it felt like the first place I actually belonged. Most of the residents reminded me of the grandparents I never had. Sweet, lonely, grateful for any kindness. I swore I'd be the person who never let them feel forgotten. Then there was Bob. Bob was 68, quiet, kept to himself. His chart carried the usual warning: history of occasional psychotic episodes. But in the 6 months I'd cared for him, he'd never been anything but polite. He'd just sit by the window in the common room, staring out at the snow like he was waiting for someone who never showed. Christmas Eve rolled around, and Marion, our activities director, threw the annual party. Families had mailed gifts weeks earlier, and we were all gathered in the big circle passing out packages, while Bing Crosby crooned White Christmas over the speakers. The room smelled like cinnamon cookies and pine. Everyone was smiling. Mrs. Patterson got a hand-knit scarf from her daughter. Mr. Rodriguez opened fuzzy slippers. Rena, who had dementia, got children's books and a giant Hershey bar and clapped like she was 5. One by one, every resident lit up. Then Marion handed Bob a small box wrapped in shiny red paper with a perfect gold bow. His hands shook when he took it. He turned it over a few times, like he already knew what was inside and wished he didn't. Slowly he peeled the tape, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside was a thick, black leather belt, expensive looking, the kind with a heavy brass buckle. For 3 full seconds the room was silent. Then Bob screamed a raw animal sound I'll never unhear, and flung the box across the circle. The belt landed with a slap on the carpet. Before anyone could move, he lunged at Jenny, the youngest aide on shift. He shoved her to the floor, knees pinning her chest, hands clamping around her throat. He was roaring something none of us could understand. It took 3 orderlies and me to drag him off. Jenny had purple fingerprints blooming on her neck for days. They sedated him and locked him in his room. Party over. Lights off. Everyone shaken to the bone. I couldn't sleep that night. Something about the terror in Bob's eyes when he saw that belt wouldn't leave me alone. Around 2 a.m., I heard crying from the east wing, deep, broken sobs that didn't sound human. I followed the sound to the supply closet and found Bob curled in the corner, rocking, tears soaking the collar of his pajamas. "Margaret," he kept whispering. "Margaret, I'm sorry." I crouched a safe distance away. "Bob, it's Ruthie. Talk to me." He looked up, eyes red and hollow. "He won't let me forget, Ruthie. He promised I'd never forget." "Who, Bob?" "My son, Carl." I sat on the cold tile. "Tell me." He wiped his face with trembling hands and started talking like the words had been locked inside him for years. "Margaret, his wife, died of a heart attack 3 years ago. She was the only softness in his life. Their son Carl had been trouble since middle school. Drugs, stealing, drunk by 15. Margaret always defended him. "He'll grow out of it, Bobby. He just needs love." After she was gone, there was no one left to make excuses. Carl bled Bob dry, emptied the savings account. When Bob tried to say no, Carl started coming over at night, drunk or high, dragging his father out of bed. He'd beat him with that exact same belt, the one in the Christmas box, screaming that Bob was a worthless father, that he should have died instead of Mom, that old men don't deserve to breathe her air. Bob called the cops once. Carl just laughed, told them his dad was senile, off his meds again. The officers left. Carl knew exactly how hard to hit, so the bruises faded before anyone noticed. Every Christmas since Margaret died, Carl mails the belt. Same wrapping, same bow. A reminder that Bob is still alive, still suffering, and still completely under his control. He got my doctor to write "psychotic episodes" in the file, Bob whispered. "Got half the old staff here thinking I'm crazy. By the time I'm really gone, nobody will question a thing." I went straight to the nurse's station, found the belt Marion had locked in evidence, and called the police myself. They came, took photos, took statements, bagged the belt. Carl showed up the next morning in a three-piece suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Calm, polished, concerned son checking on his confused father. He had medical records, affidavits from neighbors, even a note from Bob's physician about escalating delusions. Administration folded like a cheap lawn chair. I was written up for encouraging resident fantasies and breaching protocol. 2 weeks later, I was gone. I still drive past Meadowbrook sometimes. I see Bob in that same window, staring at the snow. I wonder if another red box showed up this Christmas. I wonder how many belts he's opened alone in his room while the staff calls him confused and looks the other way. Some monsters don't hide under beds or wear Grinch masks. Some wear Armani suits, bring Starbucks for the nurses, and know exactly which laws will protect them while they torture an old man one holiday at a time. I never did get another job in elder care. Couldn't stomach it after Bob. Every Christmas Eve, I think about him sitting in that corner, whispering his dead wife's name, trapped by the son she spent her whole life protecting. And I hope, wherever he is tonight, someone finally believes him.